Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webcast here of Julius Keilwerth, past, present, and future. My name is Maniscalco.
Good afternoon.
I am the product brand manager for Keilwerth Saxophones and the director of sales and marketing for Julius Keilwerth. And I'm here today with my good friend Jochen Keilwerth, who is the CFO of Buffet Crampon Germany, as well as the grandson of our brand founder, Julius Keilwerth. So great to see you, Jochen. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Yes, it's a pleasure for me too to be here with you and to answer, hopefully, all the questions you have for the visitors.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of good visitors today. I know I've heard from a lot of people who are excited to join us and talk about the brand, and who are excited about Keilwerth as we are, and who want to know more. So I'm just getting my page set up here so I could see everybody's comments and watch who's joining on here. And I see some folks already that we know from Buffet Crampon. Some of our division managers and some of our others joining in. Don Zentz, I see on there already. Thanks for being with us, Don. Jochen, I get lots of questions about the history of the brand, from players all over the states that I talk to that are so interested and curious about Julius Keilwerth and about how it all began. And so you have a lot more insight into that than I do, of course. So maybe we could start by talking a little bit about that. I know that the brand was founded in 1925, but maybe you know a little bit of the background and how it led up to that.
Yeah, so it was founded in 1925 by my grandfather Julius, and he learned the profession of instrument making already at his father's workshop. So my great-grandfather was also an instrument maker, but he never produced saxophones. He produced clarinets. And so my Julius learned the profession woodwind maker, and then was traveling a little bit around the world. He worked for a few months in Switzerland. He worked for a few months in the Netherlands, just to learn more the profession of instruments making. And then he came back, and 1925 in the 20s, the saxophone got very popular, as a very popular instrument. And so he decided to start with saxophones at this time.
Yeah. So at that time, the area, that region of Germany where Maniscalco is, and at this time that Voigtland region was really a hotbed for musical instrument production. And there was a lot of instruments.
It was, let's say, on the German side, which is Maniscalco and Klingenthal, which are, say, famous cities for musical instruments making. And on the at this time Czech side, Czech Republic side, it was Kraslitz. That's where my grandfather was born and where he started his business. So it's just from here now, from Maniscalco, it's just 20 kilometers just across the border into the Czech Republic.
Okay, and this is where the first factory began, in Kraslitz.
Exactly.
Around 1930, I believe.
So he started 1925 with more or less himself in a small workshop, and in the 30s, so let's say 36 before, or 36, 39 before the World War began, he was already the biggest German saxophone maker.
Wow.
So there had been, of course, in the area, there had been other saxophone makers also, like Hüller and so on. but he was the biggest one specialized in saxophones.
In the 1930s in Germany.
In the 30s, so just before the war.
And do we know what kind of distribution they had at that time? Were they distributing only in Germany or all over Europe?
Yeah, I think it was, of course, with the war, or with the fact that after the war, all the Germans had to leave this area in Czech Republic. This area in Czech Republic, there had been living mostly Germans, 80–90% Germans, and only a few Czech people. And after World War II, all the Germans had to leave this area.
Yeah.
And of course, they had not been allowed to take any documents, or you had just been allowed. So my grandparents and my parents at this time, they had been allowed to take 50 kilograms per person, personal things.
Wow.
And they had to leave everything. They had to leave their house, the factory, the tools, and so on.
Yeah.
And for this reason, it's unfortunately, we do not have any, let's say, historical documents from this time.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, he exported already all over the world.
Okay. Wow. Even back then, they had all over the world.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to take a minute just to say hello to a few of our guests.
Yeah.
Several of our artists come in. I know that Alvin McKinney is with us here from Tennessee. Dave Leedman is with us. Dave, thanks for being here. Great to see you with us today. Let's see who else we got here. Andy Gaffgay. Hello, Andy. How are you? Great to have you there.
Yeah.
When you and I were talking earlier about this period before we move on in the history, we were talking about some of the old horns there, because you and I have both kind of gotten into this little collecting game, and I got into it thanks to you. You got me hooked up on this and got me buying saxophones. So since we're talking about the 30s, I'm gonna show everybody this my vintage Keilwerth. This is a Model 3, serial number 6992. And this one was made in Crosslets in the original factory in around 1936. So
yeah, it must be around 1936.
Yeah, so this may have been made by Julius himself, with some having to do with this.
Maybe.
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 Yeah. And what's cool about this instrument is it's a nickel plated. It's all nickel, and it does have rolled tone holes, which I would assume were all rolled by hand, as they were at the time. And it shows that even at the beginning of the development of the line, one of the key features of Keilwerth that people have come to know with the rolled tone hole has always been a significant part of the Keilwerth design, which is pretty special. The other thing unique about this is it has one of the micro tuning necks with the adjustable, which you don't see much anymore, of course. But a really great instrument, and you helped me find this instrument in Germany, actually, and we had the team over at the factory get it in shape for me, and it's a great playing instrument. So I know you have a good one to show us too.
Yeah, that's one of around 39. So it has serial number 13,600.
Yeah.
And it's branded Tone King Solo. I'm not sure if.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's sandblasted, silver plated, with a golden bell inside. And the Tone King Solo was let's say the most professional model at this time. It has a lot of you see, it has a lot of mother of pearls inserts everywhere. Also here.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, this was, let's say, the top model of at this time.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What a beautiful horn.
So
I see
you
a
have
couple
you got
of
an older
artists.
one than me.
Say that again?
I need you got an older one than me.
Mine's just a little bit.
So I need to search.
we gotta find one from 1930.
Yeah.
Right, number one.
Yeah.
I see Mike Smith has joined us from Chicago. Hey, Mike, thanks for being here. Of course, Mike's been a Keilwerth artist for many, many years.
Hello, Mike.
John Weir, great to see you from Canada. Thanks for being with us today. Let's see who else we got here. I'm looking for any questions. I don't see any questions up yet. If anybody has any questions for us, please post them on the Facebook feed so we can answer your questions. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's anything I'm missing that someone might have asked us. No, not too much. So we'll go back on about the history again. So as you were saying, you know, around right after the war, everybody in that region was forced to relocate, like you said, and your grandparents and your family had to leave. And that was the time then that the brand resettled in Nauheim, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Around 1946.
It was in 46. They came end of 46. They came to Nauheim.
Yeah.
And more or less, like Julius started in Graslitz's business. He started first. It's interesting in the backyard of a bakery. He started. There was a smaller rooms, and there he started first with instrument repairs.
Okay.
And then he started. You can imagine at this time, just after the war, it was complicated to get materials.
Okay.
It was complicated to get materials. It was, of course, you need for building saxophones, you need special toolings.
Okay.
So maybe I should not tell this, but my father he went back to Czech Republic.
Okay.
And made a robbery in the own factory.
Oh,
taking
wow.
some tools and so on.
Wow.
If somebody would catch him, he would be shot.
Yeah. Wow. So he really
risked. At this time, it was already there had been the Russian army there.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. And I remember. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Of course, he could only take some. You could not take a truck full of tools.
Yeah.
He could take some important toolings.
Right.
And so they started then again to build saxophones in Nauheim. Let's say more or less the real production starts 47, 48.
Okay, I see. Wow. And I remember.
And of course, it was also a challenge to find, because the people who had to leave this area, all the workers, they were spread over whole Germany.
Right.
Not all came to one area, but of course they searched where are the company owners are gone, and looked for them, and then moved also to this area.
Sure.
And at this time, Nauheim area, where the company was located, it was then, let's say, an area where some more woodwind makers had been locating after the war, like Schreiber. Schreiber with clarinets and with bassoons, or Püchner. Don't know if you know that, Püchner.
Oh, no.
No. They make bassoons and oboes.
Okay.
It's a small but a good company.
Yeah.
The Winter Case Company had been in Nauheim.
Sure. Sure. Okay.
Let's say Nauheim became like a little Graslitz.
Yeah, right. Everybody that had to leave there ended up there. And I remember
there had been between the manufacturers, there had been always some relations.
Yeah.
So producing some parts for each other and so on. Making some services.
Yeah, the bassoons you mentioned were Puchner.
Puchner, yeah.
Puchner, yes. Okay, yes. Right,
yeah.
Okay. I do know them. Yes.
Yeah.
We do have some questions coming up here, and
okay.
the first one's actually from Dave Leedman. Dave's asking us, was the bell always larger on the tenor and soprano? I guess from the original designs from early Keilwerths, and
yeah.
I don't know that it was. I mean, at least going by this one, this bell, seems maybe the flare is a bit larger, but not quite as large as they are now.
Yeah.
And certainly the bow is not the same sort of wider bow.
No, it's not the same like today.
Yeah.
Today it's much wider, the bow.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the bell maybe a little bit too. The bell flare is a little bit wider.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't seen any sopranos from that early. I don't know if you have, or if they started making sopranos at the same time.
No, they are. But they are very seldom at sopranos from this period.
Yeah.
Also baritones.
Right. Okay. Let's see. We have another question out here from Lou Harris. Where are the horns made now, and are they still handmade? Thanks, Lou. Thanks for your question. Now the horns are made in our factory in Markneukirchen, Germany, which is very close to this same region where the brand began, just near the Czech border. And they are made greatly by hand. There's a great portion of the instruments that is handmade. A lot of, especially when we get to the sopranos and the baritones, almost 100% by hand. For the altos and tenors, the key work is made, but there's a lot of detail and handwork that goes into the tone holes, that goes into the engraving, that goes into all the fit and the finishing. Yeah, they're very much made in the same traditional way that the brand has been made for now 90 plus years, and still in Germany. So thanks for that question. Let's see. Rodney Berry is asking us, will the current Berry necks work on a Cuff Superba 1? I'm not sure. Superba 1 would have been from what, around the late 60s? You think, Jochen? Jochen, you hear me?
Yes.
A Cuff Superba 1 might have been made around when? What do you think?
In the 60s?
Late 60s, maybe?
Late 60s, yeah.
I'm really not sure if a modern Berry neck of ours would work on that or not. I think you'd need to check the diameter of the receiver to see exactly what it is on your cuff baritone, and you can measure that against the diameter of a new neck to begin with, and see if that is close. And then, if that's a close fit, then you can certainly try one. And if the length is right, then, it might work with the tuning and all. But I can't give you a sure yes or no to that one. I think you just have to measure a little bit.
But I think for baritone, it's a good chance that it would fit and work.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the changes on the necks had been for altos and tenors.
Okay. So maybe so. It's worth a try for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see, another question coming up here from let's see, Melky Michelle. Oh, hey, I know you from the Sax Forum, right? Great to see you. When was the bow enlarged and why? So the larger bow, I think that started with the cuff, didn't it? Or was it before that?
No, it was earlier.
Was it earlier?
It was earlier. It was I would say must be end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s.
Okay. Yep. And as for why, I would think it and I haven't heard this, directly, but knowing what I know of the brand, I would think it would have to do with developing, the unique sound for Keilwerth and
Yeah.
development of the line, and something, that they found that this helped create what they wanted to have in this sound for the brand. And those who play Keilwerth now know and understand the benefit of that large bow, and how that really helps the airflow and helps the projection, and really changes the way that the instrument is able to handle what you bring to it, and the sound it produces, which became identifiable for Keilwerth and the sound that it has. Jochen, is there any other part to that you know of?
Yeah, as you said, it's a unique sound. It's the instruments have a lot of volume, which let's say, which are the jazz players and modern music players like, and what the classical players not always like.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Keilwerth is not a typical classical saxophone, not a typical saxophone for a classical player.
Yeah. That said, there are classical players who do play Keilwerth saxophones, who do play SX90Rs,
Yeah.
and they do find that it does help them to produce a sound they like. They like the flexibility that it provides.
Yeah.
That you don't always get from a more, let's say, French style saxophone that's a bit smaller bore and a smaller bow. So while the French style instruments have become more common for that French classical sound, the Keilwerth does offer something that can allow a classical player to express things a little bit differently.
Yep.
Some seem to like that. Let's see here. Looking to see if there are any more questions. We're getting a lot of posts, a lot of hellos. Mike Smith is asking to mention about the Gerhardt design improvements. You probably know more about this than I do, Jochen.
Yeah, for sure. But let's say that's in a little later area.
Okay.
That we have been currently
Sure.
talking about. I would say maybe it's interesting to talk about how it starts with Keilwerth in the US.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think Herb Cuff had a lot to do with that.
Exactly.
Right. And that was around the mid 60s.
Yeah. And so the Keilwerth brand was under the brand name Keilwerth. Of course, there had been a few sales also under the brand name of Keilwerth. But then Herb Cuff started with a business under the Superba 1, Superba 2 models, which was very similar to our Tone King and Tone King Special models, and had been branded Tone King Special in Europe. And already before, Keilwerth made some saxophones for other US companies.
A lot of stencils.
Sorry?
A lot of stencils.
A lot of stencils, exactly.
Yeah.
And I have two here. You know what I'm collecting?
Yeah, let's see this one.
That's an alto already with a wider bow. So it must be from serial number is getting dark. 54, so 45,000.
Okay.
45,000. I have a serial number list here.
Yeah.
in front of me. So if somebody would ask about
Yeah.
serial numbers, so it's also made, let's say, around 1965, 566, and it's branded Selma Bundy Special.
The Bundy Special.
Yeah.
Hey. So,
and it has also rolled tone holes.
Yeah. Yep.
And when I'm joking, I said always that's the best Selma ever.
Yep.
Keilwerth made it for Selma US. This line, which was called Bundy Special.
Now, was that the first Bundy, or was there another Bundy? There was Bundy before that, and then this became the stencil, right?
No, Keilwerth only made the Bundy Special for
the special.
Bundy.
There was the regular Bundy and the Bundy Special.
They made themselves or purchased it from somewhere else.
Right. Right. Let's see here. We got some more artists here. Oh, Albie Donnelly's with us here from. Hello, Albie. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Albie.
Jochen, you have a hello from Dirk Runago. You know Dirk? He said hello to you.
Yeah. That's,
let's see who else. We got a lot more questions.
Former colleague.
Let's see. Oh, Albie saying hello for the last couple of months. One of the things that's brought joy and fun is playing my Keilwerth saxophone. Thank you, Albie. Let's see here. Looking for more questions. Alvin McKinney, another one of our artists, is asking about a partnership with Keilwerth and BMW and Mercedes-Benz. Was there any relationships there?
There was one relation. Now we came also to the question of Mike.
Yeah.
My brother Gerhard, who unfortunately already died.
Yeah.
He was, let's say, I was always the administrative guy.
Yeah.
And he was, so I never learned the profession instruments making.
Yeah.
But my brother, he learned the profession instruments making, and he was for many years as well as in the family company, or later on when we joined Boozy and Hawks. He was the man who made all the developments. And there was BMW had at this time a car or special finish for the cars, which was called Shadow Line. And this brought my brother to the idea to make a shadow saxophone.
Yeah. Nice. That's interesting. I hadn't heard that story before. That's
okay.
That's good. That's a good one. And now the Shadow has become, of course, one of the most popular models for us all over the world. So that's great. Wow. So with the Cuff line, if we continue that from the 60s, Herb Cuff was based in the Detroit area.
Yeah.
You know, and he began bringing in Cuff saxophones, which were made by Keilwerth. And if you see any of those early Cuff horns from the late 60s or 70s, they very much resemble. There's a lot of things to the modern design of what we have now. A lot of very similar things to them. In the design of the bow and the bell and the tone holds and some of the key features that really became distinguishable characteristics of the modern Keilwerth saxophone, and really raised the popularity of the instruments in the States during that time. And I think a lot of prominent players started playing the brand and started playing Cuff back then, and really started bringing some more notoriety to the brand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was, let's say, Herb always never made a secret where the instruments are coming from. It was all, they had been usually always branded made in Germany or made by Julius Keilwerth.
Yep.
Also later on, when Herb sold Herb sold his name to the Armstrong company, and there was on that ones. Then we continued to produce for Armstrong the Herb cuff saxophones.
Yeah.
And they had been branded. There was a large stamp on the backside besides the serial number, made exclusively for VT Armstrong Company by Julius Keilwerth, Germany.
Yeah. Yep, I've seen some of those.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping a look on comments and the questions coming in just to make sure I don't miss anybody. Looks like we're caught up. You know, we mentioned about the stencils, and I can't remember, but I've seen a list of brands that Keilwerth made stencils for, or of names, I guess, of different models.
Yep.
And there must be, what, 30, 40, 50 different things with, I mean, there was a lot. It was a long list.
I'm sometimes wondering, no, when you see somewhere at eBay or somewhere, you see a saxophone and it looks like a Keilwerth, but I never heard this stencil name before.
Right.
So I just got one not so long times ago. It's branded Rogers Special.
Okay. Yeah.
Never heard of it before. I'm not sure if it's 1 or 50 or.
Yeah, right. It was so special.
It's also one from the early 60s.
Okay. Yeah.
So, of course, from this time, I'm born 61, so from this time I don't know so much from.
Yeah. Sure.
From all the stencils which had produced at this time.
Right.
I remember for sure later on as I mentioned, the Armstrong. There had been also Armstrong stencils made under the Armstrong name.
Yeah.
I remember the Heritage.
Yeah. Armstrong Heritage.
Right. Armstrong Heritage was made by Keilwerth. Then we made for Con.
Right.
Con belongs to Armstrong at this time.
Yeah.
The Con was, I think the alto, when I'm right, was a 92M.
Okay.
And that was a standard, and then there was I'm not sure, was it 108M or something like that?
Yeah. Okay. Andy Gaffke is reminding us that Grover Washington was one of the top artists for the cuff.
Exactly.
When the cuff came in, Grover, I remember that Grover was playing a cuff, and I think he may have eventually switched to Keilwerth at one point as well, to the Keilwerth brand as well, I think.
I'm not sure. Maybe Andy knows more.
Yeah, Andy might know that for sure, actually.
Yeah.
Andy, let us know. Did Grover actually switch over to Keilwerth, or was he always on cuff? I remember he had a black nickel for a while, and I thought maybe that was a Keilwerth as well, but that could have been a cuff. We have another question from Melky Michelle. Have you always used those unique inverted hourglass posts? That's another one of those unique Keilwerth design elements. So the design of the posts that we have on the current SX90R is sort of a unique hourglass design. It sort of tapers on each end, which is a little different than just a straight post. I'm looking at this instrument, which is the one I showed earlier. And this one doesn't seem to have that same sort of design. This is a little bit different. And you probably can't see it there, but so a little different design than that. I'm not sure when that might have come into play.
Ooh, I'm also not sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm really not sure on that one, but I'll have to do a little more research into that.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Oh, let's see. Alonzo Wright is commenting that he did switch to, I guess he's talking about Grover, did switch to Kyle. And Andy said, sorry, I'm not absolutely sure.
Okay.
Okay, Andy. So then when we get into the 80s, into the 1980s, this is when then the development happened for what has become our flagship model for Keilwerth, which is the SX90R. And this started in I think the mid 80s.
Later, yeah, it started in the mid 80s already, but not under the name SX90R.
Right. Right.
So at this time, roll tonals had only been produced for the US market. So at this time, still under the name under Herb Superba name.
Yeah.
And but we did not produce for the European market any instruments with roll tonals.
Okay.
They, up to the early 60s, a lot of manufacturers made roll tonals. This has been, let's say, a cost-saving issue, more or less. It's much more easier to have the flat tone holes than the rolled ones. And at this time there was a musician, an American musician, American sax player, but I think mostly known in Europe. His name was Peter Ponsol.
Yeah.
And he come to Keilwerth, he come to us with the idea, yes, why not start again at this time with an instrument with rolled tone holes for the German market, for the German and European market. And so we produced, and at this time Peter made also mouthpieces himself. And so we started a cooperation. We took our best model at this time, our most professional model, which was the named Tone King exclusive. At this time, we had still the Tone King lines. It was Tone King Special, and Tone King Exclusive. Produced it with rolled tone holes. Some other features on the keywork. Where Peter brought in some ideas what can be modified. And it was equipped with a mouthpiece from himself. And it was personally tested by himself, each instrument.
Okay. Yeah.
So we started again to produce instruments with rolled tone holes. And then later on, when we started again business, this was the time when the cooperation with Armstrong and then Con and so on stopped. And we started then the first sales in the US under the Keilwerth name.
Okay.
I'm not absolutely sure. When I'm not wrong, at this time, Miraphone was our distributor for the US market.
Okay.
And but they don't like, or they said it's not a good idea to have a model Peter Ponsol in the US, because Peter was very well known in Europe, in Germany and in Europe, but not in US. And so it came also then that we redesigned the Tone King lines. So this was late in the 80s. And they had been named EX90 and SX90.
Okay.
So because the 90 was standing at this time for an instrument for the 90s. So it was developed late in the 80s, and it's the instrument for the 90s. Okay, we still have the name. So we are still in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the R, SX90R, the R is for rolled tonals, of course.
Right, right, of course. We had a question come up actually about rolled tone holes while you were talking. Let's see, Aleski Antonets asks us, what are the benefits of rolled tone holes compared to flat tone holes? Sealing, touching, feelings under the fingers, pads, adjustments, or what? So rolled tone holes, I guess, offer a couple of benefits from my perspective. First of all, I guess by rounding the edge of the tone hole, when you have a straight tone hole coming out, as opposed to one that comes up and then the edge is round, you're creating sort of a miniature bell, if you will, at every tone hole that allows the sound to sort of flare out in a outward direction as opposed to just going straight up against the pad. And I think this helps with the sound projection and the way the sound, comes out of the body of the instrument. Also, that rounded edge that you get from the rolled tone hole creates a softer surface, I guess, for the pad to hit the tone hole. So you're not hitting a straight edge against that pad. You're hitting more of a rounded edge, which should protect the pad life and keep the pad from getting cut into the edge of the tone hole, as well. Any other benefits from your end, Jochen?
No, you mentioned all already.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question there. Dave Leedman mentions he's been with Keilwerth since '78, first through playing a cuff. So he was one of those artists who first started on a cuff, and then transitioned to playing the Keilwerth and the SX90R. And now of course, we're really thrilled to have the Leedman Soprano series. Some of the work he's done with us there to develop that line, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit too, for sure, and get into some more details about the soprano line. But with the SX90R, so the development of the SX90R then in the 90s, in the late 80s and going into the 90s, that really became, the SX90 became really popular then, certainly in the States and all over the world, with many great artists who were playing the SX90R at that time, such as Dave. And I think that's when Ernie Watts came on. And I haven't noticed, I know Ernie was going to join us today. I haven't seen if he's in the room yet. And Ernie, if you're out there, thanks so much for being with us. I'm glad you and Patricia can join us today. I think that's when Ernie was with us. Certainly James Moody was an artist. Mike Smith, of course, has been with us for a long time. Then, many great players in the 90s who were playing Keilwerth at the time, that made it, such a famous brand all over the world. And the SX90R, I believe in the mid 90s, also won a prize in Germany, if I remember correctly. Do you recall that?
There was yes, it was an instruments prize in Germany. There's an annual prize for it changes from year to year for instruments. And so, for example, I think two years last year we had it. The Buffet group had it for the trumpet.
Oh, okay.
We won the German prize for trumpet.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
And we had also already won prize for the oboe and so on. That it's changing from year to year. Specific instruments are honored.
Yeah. Oh, great. Alex Terrier is with us. Alex, also a Keilwerth artist for us, and plays also the Senzo saxophone, the Buffet Senzo. Great to see you, Alex. Thanks for being here with us. And Alex is asking us, do you use different metals for different models? The answer is yes, we do. Most of the instruments are made from brass. The SX90s are all made from brass. However, the shadow is actually made of nickel silver as opposed to brass. It is a denser material. It's a little bit thicker. And from when you see it at the factory, when you see the raw material, the brass that we use to make the instruments come in rolls of brass that they get from Germany. And it's they come in big rolls that they roll out the sheets and cut what they need to make the instruments from. For nickel silver, it is the density is so different that it can't come in rolls. It actually comes in sheets that then they have to cut to make the instruments from. So that different metal and the different thickness of that metal creates a different vibration. It responds differently, a different sort of resonance, which I think is why the shadow is so unique compared to the rest of the SX90 range. And to be clear, the shadow is an SX90R. They're all, the design of them is all exactly the same. The only real difference in design of the shadow versus, say, a black nickel SX90R or a gold lacquer SX90R is the material, that it's made of nickel silver versus made of brass. Other than that, the specs and the bore size and the key work and all of that is exactly the same. But when you get into the different material and then the different finish, when you take that nickel silver and then you put black nickel plating on top of it, it creates a whole different sound palette. And that's what makes it very unique. So great question, Alex. Thank you. Looking to see for some more questions here. Someone from Selma, Paris asks us, is the R for rolled tone holes? Yes, Selma, Paris, it is. You guys should know that by now. Oh, there's Patricia Watts and Ernie. Hey, you guys are here. And Ernie's saying he got his first SX90R in 1994 in Nauheim from Andy. Thanks for being here with us, Ernie. Let's see, who else we got here? Wow, lots of comments. I'm trying to get caught up here. We've been talking so much. Philip Bohe, would Keilwerth make silver and bright nickel plating available again? Philip, those finishes are certainly possible. And things like that we can do as special orders. If someone wants to order a silver plated instrument or nickel plated in a certain way, we can do that as a special order. And you can reach out to, if you're in the States, you can reach out to me at Buffet Crampon and ask me what you're looking for, and we can look into that for you. But we do other finishes as special orders. We just don't make them all as full-on stock because you can only make so many instruments, and so we've narrowed down the instruments we make to stock, but other finishes could be available if there's something you'd like. So let's see, Santiago Martinez, are there ever any plans to move on from the SX90R? No, I don't think so. I mean, the SX90R has become, really the staple of our brand. We added a new model a few years ago called the MKX, which was a sort of a cousin to the SX90R, I like to call it, because it had many similar features from that. That instrument we've now just sort of phased out because we want to focus our production back into SX90R full time because the demand has been such that we just needed to put more effort into that production. So the SX90R is gonna stay, and that's where we're gonna keep going for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, exactly. No plans for a change.
No plans for change, right?
Oh.
Oh, Chris Coppinger's reminded me about Nick Brignola. We can't forget Nick, a great Barry player who was really a great pioneer for the Keilwerth brand in the 90s. Yep. Let's see. Eagle Furre, my Alto is an SX90, no R. Would I notice a big difference if I got an SX90R? Well, I guess big is a relative word. I think you would notice a difference in probably some of the sound production, the way the sound disperses from the horn, and maybe you know, it might feel a little bigger in that way. But at that point, then it becomes a matter of preference. I don't think you would notice a difference in terms of how it feels in your hands necessarily. I think, you know, the bore,
The key
right.
work is the same.
The key work is the same, the bore is the same, the bell is all the same. So, you know, all of that would still feel like what you're used to. You may just get a different sense of the way the sound projects by having the rolled tone holes versus the straight. Let's see. Thornton, thanks for coming on, Thornton. Nice to see you here. Let's see. Marcus, what is the intonation concept for the Keilwerth horns? What design features enhanced or improved intonation? That's a good question. Because the instruments are very consistent with the intonation, and I think that has a lot to do with the bore design. And Jochen, feel free to jump in if you have something here to add on this one about the intonation in the design. From my end, what I think has a lot to do with it. Obviously, there's a lot of physics behind the design of a saxophone and the tube that is used, and the shape and the diameter of that tube, and how that progresses throughout the body of the horn, as well as the length, and then the placement of the tone holes within that, all contribute to the tuning. So part of what is again of the uniqueness of the SX90R in the Keilwerth brand is that larger bow and that larger bell, and I think that in some way contributes to the evenness of the tuning throughout the range of the horn. Yeah. Specifically how, I honestly can't say, because I didn't design it, and I don't know the physics that well to know how it makes it work, but I think it does. Jochen, do you have?
One maybe interesting, as we had this question before, is a Keilwerth still handcrafted? Mm-hmm. For the tuning, it's of course important that one tone hole on the instrument is like the other. So let's say no differences. Yeah. And while tone holes had been drawn years ago by hand, there had been little ellipses being stamped out, and the material was drawn out. This is done today with modern CNC machines. Yeah. Which brings much more accuracy than when you do it by hand. This special process. Right. So let's say the tuning of the instruments, of course, improved by this special processes.
Yeah, more consistency. More consistency in the production.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Eagle also asks us, are the nickel silver you made some years ago the same as the Shadow? Yes and no. It's the same in that it's the same material. It was made of nickel silver, but it was not the same as the Shadow in that it was not black nickel plated, which changes the sound even more, you know, from just nickel silver. So yeah, the foundation was the same, but it was nickel silver with a clear lacquer over it rather than a nickel plate, which makes a difference in how the sound goes from there. Looking to see who else. James Steele, thanks for joining us. Another buffet artist. Let's see. Wow, lots of people here with us. Santiago, lots of questions. I'm getting lost in everybody here, all of our artists. I want to mention, because we have a few minutes left, I want to make sure we talk about the Leedman Soprano series as well. I get a lot of questions all the time about the soprano saxophones and especially the Leedman model. And we're very fortunate for the long relationship we've had with Dave. And going back now, I guess it's about 10 years or so, Dave started working on a design for a soprano. And when Keilwerth became part of Buffet Crampon again in 2010, and when I became in my position shortly thereafter, we started finishing that project with Dave to get the Leedman Soprano sort of off the ground and running. And what was really key, what I found about that horn when it was introduced to me was, first of all, the bore design. I know Dave did a lot of work in redesigning the soprano bore for this instrument, which is really unlike any other soprano saxophone that there is. And the uniqueness comes in the taper of the bore, but also in the end in the bell, where there's sort of a unique shape and taper to the bell. And the way the bell sort of turns in before the flare, which really creates a very warm sound for a straight one-piece soprano, which are generally known for a thinner type of sound. When you think of that's stereotypical sort of thin soprano sound, this really creates a much more warmer, full sound, almost as if it had a curved neck, but without it, to a straight soprano. So that in itself sets the instrument apart from, in my opinion, from any other soprano made. But then some of the additional features that Dave worked on with the key design, with some of the side keys that are specially made to be ergonomically fit to your hand, which is very unique. And then that, along with the aesthetic of it, with some of the unique things in the engravings and the different things that we do to it. And then we're doing this with our vintage finish, which is, again, another unique process. Really makes this all around, probably the most unique and special soprano that's out there. What the challenge we've had is that so many people are interested in this instrument that we simply just can't make enough to keep up with it. And this goes back to where we started a little while ago when we were talking about answering that question about instruments being made by hand. And this is one of those that is made 99% by hand.
By hand, exactly.
All
the key work is made by hand.
Yeah. Every single key is made by hand to fit the body of the instrument. Everything is hand soldered. Everything is hand engraved. And this is true for all of the soprano range. When we finished the Leedman Soprano, we decided to take the most important feature of that instrument, which was the bore, and carry that throughout the range, even to the models that don't have the Leedman keywork or the Leedman, extras that come with that. So even the standard now Keilwerth Soprano in gold lacquer, your standard SX90 Keilwerth Soprano, still has that same bore that Dave helped design as the Leedman Soprano, because it is such an improvement to what the soprano can do. And that's the most important feature throughout. So I know that some of you out there are very interested in the soprano saxophone range and would really love to get your hands on one and get to try one. Please reach out if you are, and I ask you, please be patient if you are. Know that we do want to make them and get them to you, and know that they are really worth the wait, because they're really something special.
As you mentioned, as they are 99% handmade, only a few people in our factory can do that.
Yeah.
Not each worker is able to do it.
Exactly. So we put that trust in our workers who have been there for many years and do a really fantastic job for us. And you can't rush that kind of thing. This is what makes a brand like Keilwerth different from many other brands that are out there. there's still a tradition and a craftsmanship to what we do that goes back to the history of where we started this conversation from 1925, the way the brand began, and that's the way it should be, and what we really value in the brand, and want to keep that tradition going. Let's see if there's any more questions before we get things wrapped up here, because I see lots and lots of comments. Oh, Mike Smith had mentioned the straight altos and tenors. Those are made for little, right? Those are really cool. Yes, someone mentioned, didn't Clarence Clemens also play Keilwerth? Yes, he did. Clarence played an SX90R, the big man with the big sound. Yep. So, okay. Let's see, any closing comments we should talk about here? Because we're just about at the hour and we can go a couple minutes over, but anything extra you'd like to add?
Not from my side. I think we talked a lot about the history and
yeah, I think we gave a lot of good information.
Yeah, sure.
Certainly, if anybody has any other questions about us and about the brand and anything else we can do for you, please feel free to reach out and contact me through Buffet Crampon. You can email me at keilwerth-info@buffetcrampon.com, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
And when Al cannot answer, he will send it to me.
Exactly. That's what I do all the time. When I get a question I can't answer, you're the first to call.
Question.
You're absolutely right. You're not supposed to give away my secrets, Jochen. I'm supposed to act like I know it. Come on.
Okay, I've never said it.
You're calling me out here, man. What are you doing to me? No, you really helped me a lot. And no, we please stay in touch with us. We really work hard to keep the brand going, and we want to be there to support you in every way we can. So before I wrap things up, I do want to mention that we are continuing our Together at Home webcast series. The next session will be this Thursday with our low brass product specialist, Declan Lynch, in a special session with Denson Paul Pollard of the Metropolitan Opera and the new AC 551 Antoine Courtois bass trombone. If you're a trombone player out there who happened to find your way into a saxophone discussion, well, here's something for you. And for you sax players that feel like checking out something about trombones, please go on Thursday and listen to our session. Again, that'll be 2 p.m. This Thursday, the 21st, on the Antoine Courtois Facebook page. And for everybody else, thank you again for joining us today. We really had a great time talking with you, and hopefully we'll do another session like this about Keilwerth. Please keep the questions and comments coming to us anytime again. And thanks to all of you for all your support, especially to our artists who join us today. Dave, Ernie, Alvin, Alex, and anyone I'm forgetting, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for being here with us and for all you do for Julius Keilwerth and for Buffet Crampon. We really appreciate you. So, Jochen, thanks to you, my friend. I look forward to when we're allowed to leave the house again, and I'll come visit you.
Yeah.
We can have some schnapps and a
By
good
the way, of course, the Keilwerth production had been also impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. So we had to stop at the end of March the production.
Right.
We will reopen production for saxophones, especially for saxophones, as of next week.
Okay, great. Yep. Nope, that's good to mention. So we'll get back on get the wheels turning again and get the saxophone cranking out. So those of you who are looking for a saxophone, please look us up and we'll get one going for you. So, okay. Thanks again, everybody, and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.